Hi there, everybody. It's Laurren Darr here with International Association of Pet Fashion Professionals coming to you again live on Facebook. We've done this as an experiment and we're trying it again. And tonight's topic that we're going to talk about is going to be an overview of 2017 to see what we have in store for the year to help you with any of your business or pet business planning over the next year. And I'm basically going to read this to you. What I'm reading from is the Pet Business Planning Almanac, if I can get this to look right here. It's a book that I co-authored with Ellen Zucker, and she writes the astrology portion, and I put together the other portions like the pet holidays, organizations, media, trade shows, and conferences and events, and those kinds of things. And we've been doing it together for 4 years now, and it's been great. I've loved working with Ellen, and I highly recommend that if you're looking for someone to give you a consultation, that you get in touch with her. I think I included the link to her website, and so feel free to get in touch with her at your convenience and when it makes sense for you. We've definitely done that ourselves in our businesses on a couple of occasions for a couple different things. So without further ado, what I will do is read you the 2017 astrological overview. And by the way, I know that we had some issues with audio on our initial Facebook Live, and so I have my blue snow cone microphone here instead. And if anybody notices anything with issues with the audio, please comment below because I'd love to know what those are, and we want to make sure that we get all of that figured out. But since we are talking astrology tonight, I must mention again that Mercury's retrograde, it will be for a few more days. And so any small glitches with technology or communication issues, frankly, just don't and won't surprise me at all whatsoever. So here we go with the overview by Ellen. It says, let's step backward to look at the big picture. With big picture Jupiter and Sagittarius playing outside roles in 2017, this is an appropriate place to begin. Jupiter's the planetary ruler of Sagittarius, the archer who aims his arrow up into the stars. When seen from such an elevated vantage point, the disparate little pieces fit into a larger, beautiful mosaic. Powerful outer planets transits from the end of the last decade have upended our economy, politics, and foreign affairs. Although the configurations have largely moved out of formation, their impact continues to reverberate strongly through 2017 and beyond until 2019 and 2020, when Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto meet each other in various combinations, beginning a brand new chapter. Definitely something to take note of there. So in many ways, 2017 is part of a transitional process to help us prepare for a shift of major proportions. Much of what is going on in 2017 helps you clarify the definition of who you are, what makes you tick, and strengthen the foundation of your moral compass. Since 2010, Uranus, the planet of freedom and rebellion, has been traveling through Aries, the sign of the individual. It leaves the sign in 2018, although it returns to Aries for a final hurrah at the year's end. In addition to unrest and upset, as well as stunning technological advancement, it has been a time that suppressed voices made themselves heard. Uranus has been a player in the major planetary patterns that have characterized the decade's breakneck social and technological change and turmoil. More than anything else, it was the tight square aspect Uranus made with Pluto through 2015 that has been the decade's defining planetary configuration. While the current Uranus-Pluto alignment is no longer exact to the penny, it's still less than 3 degrees from exactitude in early 2017 and remains within spitting distance through much of the year. Look to the place where you'll find Aries in your chart, and this is where you've been overturning convention and asserting yourself in particularly unique ways. Meanwhile, Saturn's journey through Sagittarius that began at the tail end of 2014 still continues. It features controversy around areas associated with Sagittarius, including higher education, immigration, the legal system, etc. Saturn's visit to a sign signals the application of hard, cold reality. Saturn's other function is to consolidate, limit, and shrink. Hence, the emphasis on efforts to rein in escalating college tuition and lessen the burden of student loans that played such a big role in the recent presidential campaign. Other Saturn and Sagittarius controversies include the immigration crisis, shootings of unarmed African American men and police officers, and litigation around voter ID laws. On an individual level, Saturn's visit will continue to bring experiences that are providing a reality check to your core values and ethical foundations. It also increases your intellectual discipline. By the time it leaves Sagittarius in December, your concept of truth and sense of identity will be on a much firmer foundation. Last November, Jupiter, newly arrived in Libra, formed a 90-degree alignment with Pluto, signaling the collision of the pursuit of justice versus brute power. Corruption of the systems of law and law enforcement, higher education, and institutions of organized religion will come to light to be purged. Conflicts regarding the rights of many versus the influence of big money will also be highlighted. On a personal level, you'll be evaluating your own belief system, both consciously and unconsciously, to ensure they're in alignment with your deepest values. The Jupiter-Pluto square will be in alignment through the end of August. Jupiter traveling through Libra puts the spotlight on partnerships and one-to-one connections. Look to the place where you find Libra in your chart to find where your interpersonal dealings will get a boost. This is a splendid time for pairings of all kinds, whether business or romantic variety. Wedding industry professionals will see their business increase as couples are more apt to wed. Now, just a side note there, things like dog weddings and pet weddings are becoming more and more popular, especially as people are spending more and more money on pet weddings, and the number of children in families is reducing, and we're putting more emphasis on our pets. So I think that's really insightful there, and is an opportunity for folks that are in wedding or wedding-related areas. With Jupiter out of tightwad Virgo, they are more apt to demand luxury in their events. Very interesting because, obviously wedding dresses are, very expensive pieces, both to make and to sell. So while Jupiter remains in Libra until October 9th, Libra's ruler Venus goes retrograde this year. It will spend 5 months from February until early June in Aries, helping you to reacquaint yourself with your warrior energy. In Aries, Venus is brash and quite a bit flirtatious. Artists and designers, pet fashion designers, anyone, will enjoy using a bold color palette that includes lots of Mars-ruled Aries' favorite color, red. The actual retrograde period lasts from March 4th through April 15th. This period is ripe for reviving dormant relationships and a second look at negotiations of all types. Always a great thing to do. Go take the time to relook at contracts and investments and relationships, and make sure that those are working the best for you. If you're an artist or designer, look through your files for inspiration from your past work. I think we've all got those great big files. I know I do. I have a whole file cabinet full of old things that I write down and put in there for inspiration, and I go back to it every once in a while. So it definitely sounds like I should take Ellen's advice there. It's best to follow the conventional astrological wisdom and refrain from making radical changes in your hairstyle. You probably wouldn't be happy, or starting a new business venture until Venus goes direct, because Venus is associated with money. Venus retro periods carry a higher than normal potential for cash flow and slow pay issues. These generally right themselves once the planet returns to forward motion. Mercury retrogrades too, as it does every year. This year, each Mercury retrograde period begins in an Earth sign, reminding you to be practical and grounded in your thinking. So, like I said at the beginning, we're in Mercury retrograde now, so definitely I'm trying to take things in stride. They all retrograde back to fire, reminding you to tap into what inspires you too, but not until you've done your homework. So that's, interesting insight from Ellen on the overview of the year 2017. And another thing that, while we were sitting there talking about retrogrades, is that in here she also has a section on the retrograde periods and gives an overview of those. It's the Mercury, Venus, and Mars retrograde. And she goes definitely more in depth into what to think about and what to do during those retrograde periods. And she's got some really interesting insights, especially on Mercury retrograde, because some of us feel like, oh no, I need to pull my hair out, it's Mercury retrograde. But it's really a good time to do anything, as Ellen says, with re in it, R-E, like go rethink, redo, reassess, reevaluate, reconnect with people that you haven't talked to, and friends that you haven't talked to in a long time. Take another look at business relationships that maybe you had passed by or something like that before. So there are ways to use a Mercury retrograde as we're in now, and I am not an expert at all on that. I just, I try and take Ellen's advice, and when things get glitchy like technology, I go, okay, I understand. It's Mercury retrograde, and nothing else. It gives me that thing that helps everything just get a little more even keeled when I remind myself of that, especially when it's a hot day and we're at the racetrack and like everything on the car breaks and we can't totally figure it out to get Zachary out on the track. And then we remind ourselves of what time of year it is. So anyway, that's the 2017 overview. I know we didn't go over January, so I'll do a separate Facebook Live that will go over January 2017. I know we're already into the month, but we will be sure and do that. And there are other things that she's covered in here, like long-term fashion trends based on astrology, and then fashion through the signs based on astrology. And you can, comment below and say if those are some things that you would be interested in having a broadcast on, and we'd be happy to do those for you. And, once again, this is out of the Pet Business Planning Almanac, if I can hold it up here properly and correctly. And you can find it on Amazon. Quick little note, Amazon seems, talking about things that are glitchy, has this glitch where a lot of times it'll come up and say that the almanac is temporarily out of stock. And you can actually go ahead and order an almanac. And by the way, there's also the Kindle version if you prefer that type. But anyway, just know that the almanac and any of the Left Paw Press books really are always in stock. And if you ever come across that, go ahead and order it, and you will get it in a timely manner, because for some reason they have that glitch. I don't know why. Anyway, this is Laurren Darr with Left Paw Press and International Association of Pet Fashion Professionals. I hope you enjoyed getting Ellen's astrological overview, and